write that down for the podcast.
That's right.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to your spiritual enema.
How's my enema?
Yeah, John Lavenia here with you and with some of my favorite people in the world, including Bob and Missy and Linda and Stuart and Virginia and Lindsay. Hello, you guys. Who else is here joining us? Nobody yet, but more people are coming. I see that. More people are coming. So welcome to our book study group. It is Monday, the 21st of February, and we're going to see if we can get through two more of these spectacular chapters here from Mr. James Allen. You know, guys, I love James Allen. Oh my goodness. So we're on pillars, 4 and 5, system and sympathy. Wow. I got a bit of acknowledgement. I think James gave me some validation in these chapters. I think he gave all of us some validation. He also gave us some great reminders, of course, and some things that we could take a look at and see if we can optimize. What do you guys think about this? Let's start with system as it relates to, oh, by the way, system is the fourth of the four main columns or pillars that hold up the structure of prosperity. And the other four complement it and sustain it and all that. But these four, he said, like, if you do these four, like, you got to succeed. You have to. So system is number 4. Who's got some thoughts on system? Come on down. Nobody.
I didn't get to read it. I've been busy.
Oh, now the truth comes out.
Well, for me, it's been a couple of weeks since I've read it, so kind of.
Well, I mean, you know, the whole point of studying a book is not for it to go in one eye and out the other.
I
right?
know.
Yeah. Oh, and let me say this, guys. I have got to find another text for this because the PDF that's going around, whoever wrote this, like, they got so many misspellings. It's so bad. It is so bad. Fortunately for me, I have this. So I was, thank you, sir. So I was like, that sentence doesn't make sense. Like, hold on a second. Let me get the printed book here.
Yeah.
And so
I did.
Yeah,
I wound up cutting and pasting and Google searching for the missing words or whatever. If you take the section with the misspell, it'll pull up, you know, the actual passage. Yeah, there was a couple there. My apologies. That's what you get for free PDFs.
Well, you get what you pay for, right? And since we paid nothing for that PDF, that's what you got. You got nothing. you got something. But
well, anyways, I did highlight a couple of things, John.
Okay, well, why don't we go to Linda and then we'll go to Missy and Bob.
Well, I mean, the first paragraph, it's, you know, system is that principle of order by which is impossible. And then in the end, disorder is a space. Disorder in space would mean the destruction of the universe, and disorder in man's affairs destroys his work and his prosperity. Which is
I highlighted those two sentences also. Exactly those two sentences.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I highlighted. There's so much gold in here. I highlighted a lot, but yeah, I mean, order is important, and I'm sitting in a mess right now. So.
Okay.
Too many things going on, John.
Well, you know, it's interesting you bring that up because I know you're busy, and who isn't, right? But so on one hand, systemization is what he's talking about here with this chapter, creating order in our lives, which leads to what? Efficiency. He gave examples of, you know, you can find the item in the dark, even though it's dark, right? You can place your hand on the item, so to speak. And that could be literally or metaphorically. But the other side of that is, have we all met people who, while they seemed orderly, they spend a lot of time rearranging their desk, but not calling their clients, right? So I guess to balance this with the idea, what's the proverb? Where there are no oxen, the stable is clean. So Linda's making a little bit of a mess. Well, that's good. So action's happening. But is it a sustained mess, Linda, or is it here's some stuff that got, moved around because you were working with it. And now, it returns to its natural state, which is orderly. Like, I guess you got to decide.
Well, no, I know that I have to put new systems in place. Yeah. Because it's just getting out of control. So I need to reel it back in and really systemize it. It's basically, yeah.
Okay. Was there another highlight in this chapter that you wanted to?
Oh, there was plenty.
Oh, there was plenty. Yeah. I got quite a few as well.
Yeah.
Okay. You wanna pass to Bob and Missy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's do that since it's tradition that Missy has the first.
Well, basically, this is my weakest point. I am not organized. When you jump into everything with 2 feet all at once, but Bob's all about systems. Bob can do that. And I have to learn, if I don't do this very soon, because you said, I can fall over it in the dark, but I can't find it in the dark. It's on the floor, it's on the couch, it's on the, it's bad. I did do 2 weeks ago, I took 3 or 4 hours and I made 4 folders and somehow everything's back. If I showed you this, look at the country.
Oh.
And I think about you moved across the country. Your closet was back in order. Your bookshelf was back in order. And my couch has looked the same since before you moved. So I'm not good at systems when I'm doing so many things, but that is my weakest point. And Linda is doing a great job. And there may be a little disorganization, but she does have it all together. And I'm not quite together.
Glad you think that.
I don't think, and I know it. I see
Okay.
Linda, will you be my guru? You got it all together, girl.
I do. Well, I guess so.
Better than
Not
me.
every day, but I try.
That's great.
This chapter has been my favorite reading of all the reading that we've done. Okay. Every single book, every author, but this resonated with me. My day job, I am sort of an accountant. Okay, I work only with retirement plans, but I do all the stuff that an accountant would do if he only did work on retirement plans. So it reminds me of the only accountant joke that's out there. So a doctor, a lawyer, and an accountant were arguing over which of their professions was the oldest. And the doctor said, well, obviously mine is the oldest because in the Garden of Eden, we read that God created Eve out of Adam's rib and he therefore performed surgery. And the accountant said, well, if you want to go scriptural, even before God put Adam in the garden, before there was a garden, we read that he put order into chaos, out of chaos. And that's all accounting is, it's putting order out of chaos. And the lawyer said to the accountant, well, thank you. You've just proven that mine is the oldest profession. And the physician and the accountant said, okay, how does that prove it? He said, who do you think created the chaos? So, no, this is, you wouldn't know, obviously, from just what you've seen.
That's my chaos, not yours.
Well, but I also want to remind you too, that one man's miss is another man's filing system.
Not that.
I've known a lot of people who were effectively disorganized physically, but if you ask them for something, he says, I know exactly where it is. I can put my hand right on it, and they could. For some reason, they were gifted with some phenomenal memory of where they last put something down. But if you're not going to have a system that is manifest, you must have at least an internal system. And that's what we all have to have. I saw this chapter 2 as being kind of the culmination of the 3 previous chapters of this book. You have to build on, even though this is a separate pillar, made up of separate and different elements, System is something that evolves. And therefore, you have to have everything that he has spoken about before in one degree or another. And he even admits it, saying, that you, disorganized man can somewhat be successful, but truly the organized man, the man who can bring organization, is the man who will be successful. So
You see, the disorganized man will do so by subordinating himself to a manager, right? So here's someone who has order, right?
Yes.
Now you're a subordinate of that. Okay, you can survive, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So I love this chapter. Every single word, again, was gold.
As long as it's not misspelled and out of context. Yeah, okay, good.
Well, I blame Bob for Bob. Why doesn't Bob systematize me or something?
That's great. There's a couple of
laundry.
All right.
right. There's a couple of things that, well, a bunch of things that stuck out for me. What chapter is it? The fourth pillar, system. So chapter 5. Yes, there you go. Very good. Thank you, Stuart. But just to share real quick and then go back to our discussion. This is exactly what Linda was talking about. I highlighted those two sentences because they just, all right, now I know where we're going with all this. But it says here, orderly people conserve both their time and energy. They never lose anything, and therefore never have to find anything. Everything's in its place. And the hand can be placed upon it, even though in the dark, right? As we just said. They can well afford to be cool and deliberate, and so use their mental energies in something more profitable than irritation, bad temper, accusing others for their own lack of order.
Mhm.
Anybody ever, you misplaced something and immediately you think somebody stole it from you? Somebody took my stuff. My daughter has done that a couple of times. I'm like, nobody took your stuff. So we actually have a rule in this house that there is no question that starts with, where is my? I told some of you this before, right? So
Mhm.
if the question starts with where is my, don't bother asking, because the answer is right where you left it. That's where it is. Okay. So, and that's been a beautiful time saver for us. But it says here, it is this faculty of speedy references and swift dispatch, which is of such overwhelming importance in every department of knowledge and industry. And the amount of time and labor thus saved to humanity is so vast as to be incalculable is the word. So this is what he's saying here, is this is of such great magnitude, and I agree with Bob, the profundity of this chapter, while at the same time, perhaps for guys like Bob and me, where I feel like I am pretty orderly already. And Missy, you've been lavish in praise, telling me how orderly I am. So thank you. Yeah, that's very nice. But here's the thing: I know that if I am trying to work in chaos, it's just not workable.
Mhm.
All right, and so that's not just physically. Yeah, I've got stuff where it belongs physically, but like copywriting, for example, I have to write a whole video. I got to write a video sales script, and like I have to get my mind in order on that. That's not something I can multitask with. Like, there's no way. Like when I wrote my book, I was sequestered, like in a cabin. So that's sometimes what we got to do. I've been on do not disturb mode all day, just because, like with phones and texts and all this. And I check when I have time to check. But that's also creating order, right? So all the impinging, binging, bonging, and everything, I don't want to hear any of it. Okay, so I have to compartmentalize and then give each thing its due time. So it says here, we see how system is allied with greatness. For the many separate units whose minds are untrained to the discipline of system are kept in their places by the organizing power of the comparatively few. He goes on, who perceive the urgent, right? So you're either causing order or you'll be subjected to it. But when he goes on here, I thought this was here. He's describing the socialist. It says here, there can be no marked success apart from a love of regularity and discipline, and the avoidance of friction, along with the restfulness and efficiency of mind which spring from such regularity. People who abhor discipline, whose minds are ungoverned and anarchic, and who are careless and irregular in their thinking, their habits, and the management of their affairs cannot be highly successful and prosperous, and they fill their lives with numerous worries, troubles, difficulties, petty annoyances, all of which could disappear under proper regulation of their lives. An unsystematic mind is an untrained mind, and it can no more cope with well-disciplined minds in the race of life than an untrained athlete can successfully compete with a carefully trained competitor in athletic races. So a little repeat there. So, and then he gets into the components. Number 2 being accuracy, not recuracy. But I'm thinking, this whole enthusiasm for life, diligence, vim, vigor, vip, in other words that start with V. I mean, that's it right there. That's part of being systemized, is that readiness, right? So being alive in all this. I mean, it sounds too simple, but does that not? I mean, look, that or we're putting off. This is another form of disorder. The disordered mind, indecisive. Another way to say procrastinating, not doing, not acting, not ready. Well, that's not very good. The prevalence of the vice of inaccuracy. I like where he talks about accuracy. The vice of inaccuracy. And in view of its disastrous effects, it must be regarded as a vice, though perhaps one of the lesser vices, is patent to every observe in the way in which the majority of people relate circumstance or repeat a simple statement of fact. When I thought of this, I immediately thought of people who generalize, which is an inaccuracy. Well, everybody's saying this. You ever have somebody in the office or in the group or whatever? Well, everybody says that. Well, hold on. Who's everybody? Whoa, 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 whoa. Be careful. Be careful with those inaccuracies. Of course, read the chapter for yourself and you'll see, where he kind of elucidates on that. But utility, and I was talking about being pragmatic, which I just love that. Anyway, these are some of the highlights that I got from this chapter. I can keep going, but I should yield the floor to some other awesome people who also have ideas. So why don't we go with Janet? Hi, Janet.
Hi. Well, I'm playing devil's advocate here. No, I totally agree that when you have things in order and systematically done, it just goes so much better. You can find, where was it I put that note? Okay, I can find it. It's good. So I'm totally with that. Not able necessarily to do it, but I'm totally with the concept. But I have to play devil's advocate here because under comprehensiveness, he says the inventor has in his mind all the details of his machine. Well, not originally. He's got, we're talking about the dream. You have to have a dream in order for it to come true. You have to think of this thing. You have to work on it, and it's not, it just doesn't come out full blown. You really have to give it all of the discovery that it needs. So I'm not, I'm not completely there with that. And up above from there a little bit, that unpractical people burden their minds with useless and undeliverable theories. Well, okay. What's possible now that wasn't possible 3 years ago? There are people who said, wouldn't there be great if there was a way to blah, blah, blah. And now there is, and there wasn't then. Well, if no one allowed their minds to entertain these ideas, to come up with ways of making it happen, to piggyback on somebody else's idea that, okay, well, this, well, how about that? Well, something else. Oh, and went through all the discovery of it, then what? I'm not going to throw away things that can bloom sometime, but just the time isn't right now. The tools aren't right now, but I'm not going to throw that away just because it isn't the right time. So that's just some of what, I wrote down: situations change, opportunities involve, and ideas can spur other people's ideas. So I may have said to this group, oh, I'm thinking of something, blah, blah. And then Lindsay goes, oh, you know what? And she has an idea that piggybacks on my idea, and then Catherine goes, oh, you know what? I just something or other else. And so it builds. But if I had just thrown away my idea and not put it out there, then the other two may not have, they may or may not have come up with this thing. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying that, yeah, systems, orderliness, absolutely all of this really good. But, you could table something or put it in a folder in an organized way for looking at it later. Or, for your mugs, you put down these thoughts, but they're not full blown yet. So these are in progress thoughts, and they're in that folder, and you come back to them and you look at them, because at some point you see the world just a little bit differently, and you go, oh, this would be the better wording for that. This would be an image that goes with it. This is something, so just because it isn't useful that very moment doesn't mean it has to be tossed aside for efficiency. That's all.
Let me agree with you on the point you made as far as, things aren't necessarily coming to fruition instantaneously. It says here, direct quote, that which cannot be reduced to practice should not be allowed to hamper the mind. That doesn't mean you pay it no mind or that you don't have, considerations, but not allowed to hamper the mind. In other words, let's get on with that which provides utility. And, we can go ahead and invent further. But isn't it true that, Janet, in your art, in your craft, you do have comprehensiveness. You do have the whole collection of tools, and you know where they are and which tool for the job. I know in my world of, communicating ideas to people, right? I've got so much ammo, and I can find it all right there. Right. I've got so much, but I've got it all. And yeah, I forget stuff too, here and there. But the point is that we've collected so much, whether we're talking about, art, calligraphy, philosophy, sales. That's comprehensiveness. That's part of having the system. Bob mentioned the guy who his system didn't appear to be a system. Okay. Ostensibly it was chaos, but that was his way. And it worked for him, apparently, right? So who am I to judge? But could you see that, Janet, in your own world?
No, I absolutely agree. But I say also there's a folder for later. I don't have to have it burden me right now, but I have a thought here which I'm going to put in a later folder. When sometimes I get thoughts, and so, okay, this little book idea, and I just did this thing and, tossed it over wherever. And then when it came time for doing my own wedding invitations, however, thousands of years later that was, I kind of looked at this thing and I went, oh, and it was sewn into a little book with ribbons, and I made the paper and I marbled the paper and I screen printed in different fonts and put it all into a little book. And, it was, I had people who wanted to hire me to do, and this is over 30 years ago, to do invitations for $25 each because they wanted the most beautiful invitation ever, and they thought that mine was that. Wow. And see, things evolve. I don't think you go, things evolve. I'm teaching from a whole different perspective than I would have 3-4 years ago. What I'm doing right now, what just started. And one of my students said, Janet, I asked you to teach flourishes 5 years ago. Now you are. Well, the traditional thing was first you learn this, then you learn that, then you something else. But now my head says, why am I making people do such tight things and then asking them to do all of this wonderful work? Why don't we start there and then tighten up? So perspective, changes, the approaches change, materials evolve and change. So yes and no. That's all I have to say.
Okay, yes and no. There it is. Janet has spoken, ladies and gentlemen. Bob, Missy, you have another thought on this?
Well, I believe that what James Allen is, I don't know what the right word is, but he's denigrating is the person who's just the idle thinker, who thinks for the sake of thinking. A little further on from where you picked up, John, he writes, if a man chooses to cling to so-called beautiful theories, which are proved to have no use in life and no substantial basis of reality, he must not be surprised if he fails in his worldly undertakings, for he is an unpractical man. So we do need the dreamers, we do need the visionaries, but a dream that can't be reduced to reality somehow is not worth it. I remind the famous story of Ben Franklin in his last days in Paris, and there was a balloon that went over the Bois de Boulogne, and it was the first ascent of a balloon with a human being in a basket. And someone said, well, of what good is it? And Franklin said, my dear sir, of what good is a newborn child, right? We're witnessing the birth of something, the potentiality of which we don't know, but it is great. Someone will be able to make something of this. It is, yes, it is punning a little bit, a flight of fancy, but it did develop into something. I do have one textual clarification. Just a couple of paragraphs down from where I was reading. He writes, the carpenter fashions a chair, the builder erects a house, the mechanic produces a machine, and the wise man molds a perfect character. Not the schismatic, the theorist, and the controversialist. Is schismatic the actual word in the text? Or is this a PDF?
Not the schismatic. Let's see here. Let's see. So we are coming to the end of that chapter.
Probably
The
systematic.
carpenter fashions. The carpenter, yep. Not the schismatics, the theorists, and the controversialists.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
How are you spelling schismatic? Is it correct in the PDF?
Yes, it's correct. SCISMATIC, but
He did make it plural, though. It was supposed to be plural.
nevertheless, it still doesn't seem to fit in because schismatic is a word that has a very precise meaning. It means, someone who divides, someone who sows a division.
Well, maybe he's describing politicians or,
Anyway.
or mainstream media.
Anyway,
Right.
Stuart is in the waiting room. His hand is up.
Stuart,
And we all want
save
to
us.
He has to say.
Save us.
I'm in the green room, baby. Of course, I got some notes here. I'll run through chapter 5 real quick, and then you can roll on with chapter 6. Obviously, a lot of what you've already talked about, and a lot of what you've highlighted are things that I've highlighted, but a couple of things that I made note of here that haven't been mentioned yet. By the disarrangement of details, organisms perish, right? And of course, organizations, right? Businesses perish. Disorderly people waste an enormous amount of time hunting for things, right? And we've kind of gone over that. I love his use of the word slovenly over and over again. I don't think I've seen the word slovenly written in so many places, right? But slovenly people never have a place for anything. And of course, I immediately thought of John, and no matter where you are, man, your backdrop, aside from, moving issues or whatever, there you are with your stuff. I'm sure we've talked about this, where your desk and your workspace is organized, right? When he got into the in the dark thing, of course, I'm thinking about, as a guide, everything in my pack has to be organized. Everything on the llamas has to be organized. In my tent, in the dark, I have to know, clients are in trouble, animals are in trouble, whatever. So everything is laid out next to my head the same way every single time. I wake up in the middle of the night, in the dark, in the mountains, disoriented sometimes, but once I get my bearings, I immediately know my flashlight's here, my hat and gloves are here, my boots are over here, my clothes are over here, my firearm is over here, whatever it might be. that in the middle of the night, in the dark, whatever, I know where everything is. So I really appreciated that that part of what he was talking about. Said that if we have a system, we can get through a great quantity of work in a short period of time, with freedom from exhaustion in this seeming effortlessness approach, right? Simplify that which was complex. I liked his whole part about people who abhor discipline and the untrained and undisciplined mind. The ill-disciplined mind thinks that anything will do, and the well-disciplined mind thinks only the best will do. So it's this concept of just getting by, or just doing the bare minimum kind of thing. And of course, we all know people in our lives like that, and maybe even aspects of ourselves, or the parts of ourselves that just want to kind of be lazy just to do stuff, you know, at the bare minimum. Which brings me to, you know, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. System is the law by which everything is built, right? Business, character, organisms. He encourages us to be resourceful, and that the builders, or the systematic people, are the protectors and the pioneers of humanity. I thought that was cool. Readiness, right? These, I'll just run through the 4 features here. The spirit of alertness, right? That situation awareness. John, you talked about this course that you did, right? Where it was that sort of readiness, situation awareness course. I immediately thought of that you're always ready for action. No surprises, that, you know, no matter what life throws at us, you know, that we have the ability to deal with any problem as it arises. Accuracy is allied with self-discipline, and is an indication of high moral culture. I love that. There's never been a person who hasn't made mistakes on the path of success, but the right-minded person is the one who recognizes and quickly remedies them, right? So, you know, we have the ability to be aware of where we are faltering, and adjust in the moment. Utility is usefulness, right? It is the result of the method in our work, and that which can't be reduced to practice. This comes back to what you were talking about, Janet, where I think really what he was saying was that, and Bob, I think you hit it on the head, where, you know, we can get caught in the folly and the daydream and the theorizing and the speculation. But I agree with what you were saying, Janet, that you can table it, you can put it in a file for later. I think he's just warning us about, you know, the tendency to get hung up on the theories and speculations that are going to get in the way of our productivity, right? He talks about just, you know, put that stuff aside and just do stuff and just get stuff done. Prosperity is measured. Then he talks about usefulness, right? Prosperity is measured by our own usefulness to the society and to our community in accordance to what we do, not because of our theories or that we entertain, right? So it's our actions, right, that we're judged by, or that, you know, ultimately result in our success. But is it turn away from speculation and do stuff, and with all our might, right? This goes to that 100% commitment. So do stuff with all your might, and you will gain special knowledge, special power, and reach your unique position and prosperity. And comprehensiveness enables us, like you were talking about, John, to take in and deal with a large number of details, to be governed by a single principle, right? So, and I think about this a lot in my line of work as a guide, because really there are so many things going on. People on the trail say things to me all the time about, you know, how do you think about all these things and keep, you know, you must have so much going on in your head at all the time. And yeah, I think that there's a way to hold a space for all those things, right? What does he talk about? An army of details, right? A well-ordered mind can hold in its silent depths an army of details, their proper arrangement and true working order, near to genius. And then this plays on what you were saying, Bob, that we can gradually evolve our mental capacity by paying careful attention to system. And that, yep, the four corners are just the beginning, but if you got those, then you're going to be successful. And the other ones really just are going to lead to greater strength and stability of the temple of your prosperity. That's what I got for chapter 5.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoy where he talked about comprehensiveness is analytic and synthetic capacity combined in the same individual. You were just quoting from that paragraph. Powerful stuff, you guys. Wow, wow, wow. All right. Janet, and then we're going to go on to anybody else, and then we're going to go on to the fifth pillar, sympathy. Hey, Janet.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add, I don't think any of us talked about it, but about utility or usefulness, and it must be done seasonably, so the easy one to understand is the gardener has to plant the right things at the right time in the right soil, and if you go a month too long, it's not going to happen. So sometimes you have to, strike at that time, being useful, being prepared, so that when the time is right, then you have it out there. That's really important, I think, for just a lot of things. And it's a simple thing, but it's really important. And so it's, being the practical person, the impractical person, but you arrive at fruitful and profitable ends when it's systematically pursued. And I think that's right. I mean, Stuart doesn't pack up his llamas before, when he's up at the top of the mountain isn't the time to think about what you're packing up or about, making sure that you have everything. You may have to order stuff for the trip, and you can't order it a day before. Usually you have to have it, piled up and doing the right thing and making the right order with it. So when it's time, it's all there and you can go forward with it. So a lot of it's just, I'm sorry, I'm just being really obvious, but it's just the thing of the system of getting things in place, knowing what you need to have, having your list, having things come in, putting them in the right order so that they make sense. And you may laugh at this, but when I was a sophomore, I think in college or something, and I had a philosophy class, and it was the shortest question in the whole world. The final, we got a strip of paper and it said, why? And my roommate was taking the same class. She says, well, why not? And I spent the whole 3 hours talking about order of the universe, how things had to do, and writing. So order was important then too. Anyway, it's just funny.
Very good. Thank you, Janet. Seasonableness. Good stuff, guys. Does anybody remember? There's a Saturday Night Live skit with Will Ferrell, and they were doing the Blue Oyster Cult song, right? And he's got the cowbell, right? So talking about being excessive or unseasonable or too early, too late, too much, too hard, too soft, right? As Janet was talking, somehow that sprung into my mind. Will Ferrell smashing on the cowbell in Saturday Night Live. So there's a season for all this stuff, guys. Sympathy. Or wait, anybody else have some thoughts on system and being orderly and having order in your life experience? Okay, no, let's go on to, Lindsay.
Well, I was just gonna say, I had my systems tested last Thursday, I think it was. I don't watch news or anything, but tornado came through here. I was in the middle of, I was on a call actually with somebody, and I was like, okay, we got power packs, just pitch black in here. It was just no lights, but I managed to finish that call and kept everything going. So I was proud of that. And I had everything in place where I was just like, okay, so then I just had to tell them to hold on for 2 seconds. When you have headphones on, the tornado sirens go off, like an Amber Alert in your ears. And I'm like, oh God, it's really bad. But no, I pulled it off. So I pulled it off. But yeah, but we didn't get it apparently was like 2 miles from here. So we were out of power like till the next
Wow.
evening. Or it came on, I got on general session and then it went back off.
Wow.
Like the rest of the day, I was like,
It's an omen.
yeah. So I didn't think I was very organized, but I think I pulled it off.
Lindsay's like, I'm on a sales call. I don't have time for tornadoes right now. Ain't nobody got time for that.
I
All
didn't
right.
know.
Go do your tornado thing somewhere else.
And I'm usually
Right.
like right out in the middle. I'm like looking for it. I love storms, but I didn't. I had this, my headphones on. You can't hear anything else. I was like,
Right,
I had
right.
no idea. My husband was calling because I was the only one here. I was like, leave me alone. I'm right in the middle of something, you know.
Right.
So yeah.
More
Yeah,
cowbell,
that's-
says Story. More cowbell. All right. Good stuff. Hey, Lindsay, I've been in that same situation. I was doing I was on a sales call in Los Angeles. An earthquake happened. I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's okay.
Right.
It does. When you're into something, focused attention.
Oh my goodness. All right, Lindsay. So sympathy. But really, the word sympathy, I use sparingly, just talking for myself here, because of the modern parlance, modern, meanings that have been added to that word, which he immediately rebukes in the chapter. Okay. So thank you, James Allen, for that. Because I was thinking, how is this a pillar of sympathy? I'm gonna walk around like feeling sorry for people or something. No, that's not it. Bob and Missy, please come on down.
One sentence at one the same time, it is probably the deepest sentence of the chapter. There's also in the PDF the most humorous because of two glaring typos. Sympathy is a deep, silent, inexpressible tenderness which is shown in a consistently self-forgetful, gentle character. Sympathetic people are not gushing and spasmodic, but are permanently self-restrained, firm, quiet, unassuming, and gracious. Their undisturbed demeanor, where the suffering of others is concerned, is frequently mistaken for indifference by shallow minds. But the sympathetic and discerning eye recognizes in their quiet strength and their swiftness to aid while others are, and here is the exact sweeping and wronging their hands, the deepest sound of sympathy. I think they mean weeping and wringing their hands.
That's exactly what he wrote. Yes.
But it is there. Many people have mistaken me for being an unsympathetic and cold individual because I don't break down and I don't show all the external manifestations. I'm not the reaching out. It's, how can I help in the best way that I can help? I'm sympathetic, but if I'm just going to rush in, I may just get in the way. So partly out of self-preservation, self-restraint. This was a beautiful paragraph, and it needs, a lot of reading and a lot of meditation and contemplation. It is divine. It's beautiful.
I'm glad you brought that up, Bob, because we've got a couple of things in common, don't we? The idea that sympathy is supposed to be dramatic or theatrical or like it's supposed to look a certain way, and you don't fit that mold, Bob. You sitting there all objective and calm and collected and stuff, right? So I'm thinking. So of what use is it then? Does my outward display of being frantic or hysterical or something, does that aid those needing aid? No, right? So we talked about what the pillars, built of and how it's sustained, right? Kindness, generosity, gentleness, and insight. So you can know without being possessed by it. He talked about having walked through fire, so to speak, right? Those who have faced hardship, and then being able to, what remains now that you've survived, what remains is wisdom, which we could also say like insight. Okay. which I guess a byproduct of that would be maybe empathy, kindness, generosity, gentleness, the things that he talked about within this chapter. So does that need to occur? What do you guys think? Does that need to occur as some dramatic, weeping and wronging of hands?
I just want to close my thoughts with my one of my favorite scenes in all of film is the scene where in Apollo 13, what became known as the Tiger Team was working to solve the problem of how to get the astronauts back to Earth. And you can't say that these men, and I do use the word man specifically because there were nothing but Y chromosomes in that room. But you can't say they weren't sympathetic, okay? But they realized that the old saying, when in worry or in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout, wasn't going to work. And each individual tried to put their case forward. Well, mine's the most important. Mine is the most critical. And this young engineer, right down to the plastic pocket protector, short sleeve shirt and tie, says, the obvious thing is power. You don't got power, you don't got anything. And that cut through all the crap. Okay. Was he sympathetic? Yes, he was. But was he maudlin? Was he weeping and crying? No, he wasn't. And he got buy-in from everybody else that said, okay, we solved the power problem, everything else can be solved in turn. So sympathy is simply not, as wronging your hands and sweeping.
Right. That's great. And so that solution-oriented person, while he didn't, he wasn't wronging his hands, he was expressing knowledge, right? It says here in the chapter, lack of sympathy arises in egotism, sympathy arises in love. Egotism is involved in ignorance. Love is allied to knowledge. Interesting. What do you guys think, Stuart?
I think that right after the chapter on integrity, that this is my maybe second favorite chapter so far. Immediately when I saw that this pillar was sympathy, I immediately thought of the Stoic concept of sympatheia, which is the understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, right? And I got a quote from Aurelius here. All things are mutually woven together and have an affinity towards each other. I immediately think about sympathetic vibration, where the strings of an instrument, where you pluck one string and then the rest vibrate, right? So this concept of everything being connected, everything affects everything else, butterfly effect, all that kind of stuff that we've talked about for a long time. I like that he spends a lot of time saying what sympathy isn't, right? Which I thought was interesting. And sympathy shouldn't be confused with superficial sentiment. You talked about the bursts, the bursts of indignation against injustice. I immediately think about the social justice warriors who have kind of this phony, immediately take to social media to, virtue signal and say, oh yeah, that's bad, and everybody kind of jumps on a bandwagon and that is not true sympathy, right? Just like every time there's a disaster and everybody takes to their social media accounts and puts the cliche hearts and minds or hearts and thoughts or whatever, my thoughts and prayers are really, like, if that's all you're given, if that's all you're doing, is just making a little post on Facebook, it's this insincere public display versus this concept of quiet, self-forgetful way of being, right? This gentleness that he talks about, that you're not even really aware of it, right? And that's the beauty in true sympathy, is that it's not a public display, right? And going back to what you guys were talking about, that, you know, it's not this gushing kind of thing, right? And again, there's also a Stoic concept of indifference, right? And so hand in hand, you can have sympathy, but you can also be indifferent, but it's not this negative, like not caring about something, right? It's just not, you know, running in circles and screaming and yelling, as you were saying, Bob. He talks about being good-natured and honest, and that the test of a person is in our immediate acts, not in this ultra sentiment, or I would call like this phony approach of sentimentality. One of the greatest quotes in this chapter, I thought, was where he talks about the well of sympathy, right? And the spring of tears. Though the well of sympathy may feed the spring of tears, that spring more often draws from the dark pool of selfishness. This guy's amazing. What a great writer. Sympathetic people are not gushing, spasmodic. I guess you said that, Bob. Lack of sympathy is shown in cynicism, sarcasm, ridicule, taunting, mockery, anger, and condemnation. Lack of cynicism, you talked about egotism and self-importance. And it's about people who see themselves separate from others, whereas true sympathy lifts a person up above our self-centeredness and enables us to live in the hearts of others. And sympathetic people feel the suffering of others and minister to its alleviation. Sympathy is oneness with others in their strivings and sufferings. And when we have true sympathy, the meaning of others' lives are revealed to us. We become spiritually united with others. To reach this level, we need to have loved much, suffered much, and sounded the deep depths of sorrow. Just amazing stuff. And from acquaintance with the most profound experiences, right? So it's not, so you can't be sympathetic. It sounds like you can't be sympathetic unless you've lived, you've loved, you've suffered, and you've had profound experiences in your life. He talks about being perfected by suffering. And then he kind of talked, I thought this was cool, and I thought maybe Bob, you would hit on this, where he kind of talks about the Sunday religious people, right? The people that are shitty to other people all week and then go to church on Sunday, or the person that goes to confession once a week but treats everybody like crap the rest of the week, or whatever it is. And that sympathy is a universal spiritual language. Selfishness impels people to protect themselves at the expense of others, where sympathy impels us to protect others by the sacrifice of ourselves. Good stuff, man. And then, of course, kindness, generosity, gentleness, which he calls akin to divinity, and insight, right? Where we get vision and perception. And he implies that insight is truly a path to wisdom. Great stuff, man. I love James Allen.
Yeah. You know, on that note, talking about having that willingness to put yourself in front of the perils of others. That doesn't mean that you're just looking to be martyred. Okay, so he even gives the example in there that, you know, here's the person who you know, became wildly successful after another, you know, more selfish or predatory enterprise. Well, they wound up losing, and this guy became very successful, and he was sympathetic, he was kind, he was all these things. So it's not like I'm just walking around looking for a cross to jump onto. All right. So finding that balance and how that actually could show up in our lives. I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time on this chapter, tell you the truth. So yeah, I really appreciate your insights, Stuart. Anybody else who's got some thoughts on sympathy as the fifth pillar? Now, once again, this is one of the pillars that sustain and I guess enliven or embellish the four first ones that we went through. Anybody have some thoughts on sympathy? Is anyone here sympathetic? Is anyone wronging their hands? Hi, Janet. Are you sweeping or wronging your hands right now? Which one are you doing? Sweeping?
No, wringing my hands.
Okay.
I apologize because I put my elbow on my little machine here and I lost connectivity. So this may have been said while I was out, but you know, some of the things is okay. So you're a salesman now, and we talk about the benefits and the, you know, all of the things about it, but part of what you're doing is solving problems for people.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can be simpatico with the kinds of things you're going through, and then offer you something that, you know, I kind of understand this, and I've been there too, or I haven't, or someone, but you know, this will be helpful to you. This car will solve the problems of what you've been going through. You did cars, you know, this product, this whatever, these things, and I just think that there's the sympathy part of it, or the, you know, the understanding. I've been in your shoes. I've walked that path too, and I'm offering you something. And sorry, Stuart, it could be hearts. There's going to be hearts on my products, but it I think it conveys to people a certain a certain kind of persona. You know, it is where I'm. It's how I'm feeling, and it's a symbol that does convey to people certain kinds of love and understanding, and such as that, at least in my world. So I just was just saying that, you know, this is as a practical thing for business people, because who do you buy from? The person you trust. You trust somebody that you think understands your situation. So just bringing it circled that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Good stuff. Lindsay, what thinks you?
Well, I was thinking, you know, when the theatrics start, when, you know, life happens, crises happen, you can keep yourself together. And I don't think, I mean, yeah, it can come across as uncaring or insincere, but at the end of that, you don't, to me, that just never adds good to the situation. So it's, and I didn't realize that I did this because, like, when my mom, she had cancer, and I just have, you know, you have to go forward with faith and belief. When that's, you know, and I did. And I can remember my husband actually asking me, he's like, "Do you even care at all that your mom has cancer?" Okay, that's when I almost was like, okay, are you serious? Like, just because I'm not losing it and making a scene, yeah, I care. But I don't have to, well, you know, I don't have to do all that. Nobody needs that. Especially in a time like that. So I don't know, that can translate to business or anything. If, you know, something happens, you do, I guess I could come across as cold and uncaring, but it's not. It's just I just think you can I think you can always keep yourself composed to a degree and be a lot more helpful in that manner.
Well, it's like Bob quoted James Allen here: sympathetic people are not gushing and spasmodic, but are permanently self-restrained, firm, quiet, unassuming, and gracious.
Right.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like an ally that I want to have.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm the one who's in distress.
Right.
I don't need you to be distressed as well.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Lindsay, the person who doesn't even notice there's a tornado until the lights go out. That's the person I want in my corner. Person who's too busy selling to pay attention to the weather.
I'm usually not looking for it. I have to be home alone. So
that's it. More cowbell, damn it. All right. We're coming to the top of the hour.
Yeah, we are.
Linda.
Well, I had a couple of things, but it can wait till next time.
No. Please.
Well, all right. Well, I wrote down a couple of things. As goodwill increases, man's prosperity will increase. That was, you know, something that stood out to me. I mean, the more we give, the more we get, right? You want more love, you give more love. You want more money, spend more money. giving is as important a duty as getting. And he who gets all he can and refuses to give will at last be unable to get, for it, can't even read my own writing, is as much a spiritual law that we cannot get unless we give, as that we cannot give unless we get. So,
This is in the sub chapter on generosity, right? Which is part of the pillar.
yeah.
Good stuff. Well, you're describing a flow,
Exactly.
right? And so the whole idea of affluence, right? Which is was the root of effluere, flowing to, right? So being in that flow, yeah, I mean, it's way better than being stagnant, right? Stuart's got his hand up. Stuart, you had Linda just pressed your buttons, Stuart. So what thinks you?
I was just going through the last of the sub chapters there, and I found some notes on kindness that I thought were important to bring up. It talks about kindness should be bestowed not only on those who please us, right, but on those whose beliefs or actions are contrary, right? And so it's this unconditionality to kindness, and it's not a fair weather kind of thing. I thought that was pretty cool. He talks about unkindness. I don't know if this hit anybody else, but unkindness mars our character and our face, right? And he says kindness beautifies our character and our face, right? So I just thought that was pretty interesting too. Anyway, good stuff. Thanks, John.
You have a beautiful face, Stuart. You kind person, you. That's right. What beautiful people we've got here. Any last call? Last call? Anybody? Last call. All right, then we shall wrap up with that. 2 more chapters next week. We're going to get through this book. I'm going to see if I can find, well, I could probably just, on Amazon, we could probably find, a Kindle book for $1 that was correctly typed. But, or you could just all run out and get the paper copy, which once again, Stuart, the Llama King. By the way, I saw llamas at the Florida State Fair yesterday. And Trinity got to, feed them little bits of whatever they eat. And yeah, there was even a giraffe there. You guys want to see the giraffe that was at the Florida State Fair? Lindsay, you want to see this? Just for you. Everybody else, close your eyes. I'm gonna show this to Lindsay. Hold on a second here. Where's this friggin' giraffe? Oh, and they had camel rides too. Trinity rode a camel. $10 to take a camel around in a circle twice. And she's like, "You want to ride it?" I was like, "I've been to Dubai. I know all about riding camels, and I'll pass for today." But there you go, guys. Check out Herman over there, whatever his name is. There he is. I was kind of shocked to see they actually got a giraffe in the state fair in Tampa. All right, you guys. Well, have a great night. Have pleasant dreams. We'll see you all back here next week. Bring a friend, jlsuccessmastermind.com. I will see you guys.